The following is a presentation on how to conduct multifamily dwelling inspections. The objective of this training will be to review the need for and purpose of the multifamily dwelling inspection program, review multifamily dwelling inspection practices, and to go over how to fill out a correction order to document deficiencies or violations found during an inspection. When a civilian dies in a fire, it is almost always in a residential occupancy. Most of the time, that residential occupancy is a single-family dwelling, but 15% of residential fire deaths occur in apartment buildings. Across the nation, in a recent 5-year period, 413 people lost their lives in apartment fires. The county is home to just over 900,000 people. They reside in 330,000 residential units. About 30% of those housing units are apartments or multifamily dwellings, which are defined as any residence containing 3 or more units. In Prince George's County, there are approximately 575 multifamily properties, from small 3-unit buildings to complexes of more than 100 buildings with over 1,000 units. Approximately 425 of these complexes are traditional rental apartments that hold multifamily rental licenses from DPI. The remaining complexes are condos where units are individually owned. In all, there are more than 8,000 buildings with nearly 100,000 individual apartment units. The first step in conducting a multifamily dwelling inspection is to schedule the initial inspection. You will need to contact the property manager to set this appointment. They may refer you to the maintenance manager to schedule the inspection. For smaller properties, you may be dealing directly with the owner. Usually you can schedule the inspection over the phone, but you may need to visit the property to schedule the inspection. When you arrive at the property on the scheduled date, the inspection usually begins in the rental office or maintenance office. Ask the manager for paperwork documenting the maintenance of the property's fire safety systems. Ask for their fire alarm report. If there is a fire alarm at the property, they must have a report from a licensed fire alarm company documenting that the system has had an annual inspection in the previous 12 months. The report must be free of deficiencies. If there are deficiencies noted on the annual inspection, the manager must provide additional documentation that those deficiencies have been corrected. Management must also provide an annual fire sprinkler report. If there are fire sprinklers at the property, they must have a report from a licensed fire sprinkler company documenting that the system has had an annual inspection in the previous 12 months. The report must be free of deficiencies. If there are deficiencies noted on the annual inspection, the manager must provide additional documentation that those deficiencies have been corrected. In addition to the fire alarm and fire sprinkler reports, if there are any private hydrants on the property, management must provide documentation that they have been tested in the previous 12 months. The hydrant report must show that each hydrant is capable of flowing 1,000 gallons per minute at a residual pressure of 20 psi. The report shown would be acceptable because it shows a flow of 1,060 gallons per minute at 40 psi. But very often the report does not answer the question, will this hydrant flow 1,000 gallons per minute at a residual pressure of 20 psi? The report shown here shows that the hydrant flowed 650 gallons per minute. The line for residual pressure is left blank. We would need more information or a better report to know if this is a compliant hydrant. This report shows that at a residual pressure of 30 psi, shown on the bottom line, this hydrant flowed 920 gallons per minute. Without a calculation or graph, we don't know what this hydrant would flow at 20 psi. In fact, this report did go on to graph the performance of the hydrant to show its projected flow at 20 psi residual. You can see on the next line shown here at the bottom of the page, they project the hydrant to flow 976 gallons per minute. This is what the graph for this hydrant would look like. The line begins on the left margin at the original static pressure of 115 psi. It proceeds diagonally down across the graph to the residual psi point obtained on the flow test, 30 psi, which corresponds at the bottom of the page with a flow of 920 gallons per minute. If you continue to follow the line to the point where the line crosses the 1,000 gallon per minute mark on the right margin, you can see that point corresponds with a residual psi of about 15. So this is not a compliant hydrant. But at 976 gallons per minute, we would likely accept it but advise the property owner that the performance of this hydrant would need to be monitored on future tests for any deterioration of performance. So there are two ways to project the performance of a hydrant: by graphing as seen in the previous example, or by entering the data from the flow test into a calculator or formula to determine what the flow would be at 20 psi. On the last line of the report shown here, you can see the technician gathered all the required data to calculate the flow at 20 psi. On the final hydrant on this report, he obtained a pitot pressure of 40 psi. Using a widely available chart, it was determined that a pitot pressure of 40 psi taken on a 2.5-inch orifice or discharge is equal to a flow of 1,061 gallons per minute. Plugging all this data into a flow calculator gives a projected flow of 2,815 gallons per minute, which of course is a very good hydrant. Finally, the manager should have records for their portable fire extinguishers. If maintenance does not record their monthly fire extinguisher checks by initialing the back of the tag on each fire extinguisher, they must keep a log of their monthly fire extinguisher checks in the office. They should also have a report or invoice from the technician for their annual fire extinguisher service. Also in the office, the staff should have records or logs documenting that their fire alarm pull stations have been tested monthly. They should have a log of monthly emergency lighting tests, as well as a log of their monthly smoke alarm inspection efforts, showing that all alarms have been tested in the previous 12 months. And finally, they should have a log of their monthly carbon monoxide alarm inspection efforts. The log should document that all CO alarms have been tested in the previous 12 months. Once the records have been checked in the office, the crew can begin moving through the building or complex to complete the inspection. There will be a standard list of items you will want to check for each building. Test the emergency lighting. It should shine brightly for 30 seconds. Maintenance should test these lights monthly for 30 seconds and annually for 90 minutes. They should provide documentation of this testing. Check the exit signs. Exit signs should be in place, visible, and illuminated. 911 emergency information signs displaying the building's address should be in place above all pull stations. Portable fire extinguishers should be in place and properly mounted. Check each for a current inspection tag and a gauge showing the extinguisher is full. Fire extinguishers shall be provided within 75 feet of travel distance from any point in the building. This does not mean every 75 feet. 2 fire extinguishers in a long hallway could be as much as 150 feet apart and still meet the requirement, as the travel distance from the midpoint between these 2 extinguishers is only 75 feet. Generally, fire extinguishers should be provided on every floor, but in garden-style apartments, 1 on each intervening landing of the stairs is acceptable. For instance, a 4-story garden might only have 3 extinguishers. Where the roof is pitched, a drywall partition or draft stop may be provided to slow the spread of smoke and fire through the attic. Check this draft stop or any separation wall that may be present for penetrations or holes. Exit doors and windows should be operable without the use of any key, special knowledge, or effort. If bars are installed on the bedroom window of a terrace level unit, a release mechanism must be provided. There cannot be a lock that requires a key to open. Have the maintenance staff open the storerooms. Storage rooms should be locked and have a 1-hour rating or be protected by a sprinkler. If not, they should be 100% empty. Holes in the drywall as seen here must be repaired. Note these holes on your correction order. Smoke alarms should be checked. By knocking on doors or having maintenance open the doors to vacant units, try to access at least 2 units in each garden-style building. At a minimum, we should be checking 10% of the units. If more than 20% of the units checked fail, direct the property to go through and check all the smoke alarms. All apartments in Prince George's County must have a hardwired smoke alarm with battery backup. Check the carbon monoxide alarms. There should be a CO alarm in every unit when there is fuel burning equipment anywhere in the building. Like the smoke alarms, 10% should be checked during the inspection. For buildings equipped with a standpipe or sprinkler system, you will need to check to make sure the fire department connection is capped, visible, and unobstructed. Check the fire alarm annunciator panel. All lights should work and there should be no trouble indicated. Check the standpipe riser outlet for caps, wheels, and damage from vandalism. Each floor should have signage within the stair enclosure at each landing that indicates that floor's number. The signage should be visible whether the door is open or closed. The number 2 painted on this door would not be seen if the door was open. All doors that open into the corridor shall be fire-rated assemblies. These doors must be self-closing and self-latching. Trash chutes and indoor dumpsters must be protected by a supervised automatic fire sprinkler system. Trash collection rooms must be 1-hour rated or sprinklered. Doors to trash rooms and chute doors must be self-closing and latching. Any smoke control systems, such as stairwell pressurization fans, shall be operational and tested annually. A report from the annual test shall be made available to the inspector. All smoke barriers shall be operational and releasable by the building alarm system. These barriers shall be tested as part of the annual test of the fire alarm system. The elevator fire emergency operation function shall be tested monthly. A log of these tests shall be made available to the inspector. Elevators will be inspected annually by a Maryland Commission of Labor and Industry authorized third-party inspector. Laundry and boiler rooms are considered hazardous areas. They must be protected by an automatic sprinkler system or be 1 hour rated. Good housekeeping must be maintained in these areas. A current DLLR boiler inspection certificate must be posted or kept on file. Fire pumps shall be cycled monthly. It shall be tested and inspected by a qualified technician annually. If there is an emergency power generator, it shall be tested monthly. They must also have an annual maintenance and performance load test. There are a few more items that must be checked on the exterior of the building. The building address shall be displayed with numerals 8 inches high that are visible from the street. Balconies and terrace patios shall be free of storage with the exception of non-combustible patio furniture. Storage on the balcony or patio could impede secondary egress from the apartment and add fire load to the balcony area. Outdoor dumpsters must be covered and kept at least 30 feet from the building. The use or storage of a grill on any balcony or patio of a multifamily dwelling is prohibited. Grills should be limited to fixed stationary grills installed at least 30 feet from the building. Finally, check for adequate fire access. Fire lanes should be maintained with paint and signage. Yellow traffic paint meeting federal specifications should be used to mark the face and cap of fire lane curbs. Fire lane signage of the approved size with the correct language should be provided. The approved signage should be installed on posts that are 7 feet from the bottom of the sign to the height of the finished curb. When you have finished inspecting the building or complex, the final step in the inspection process is to issue a correction order to the owner or manager. The correction order directs them to address all the deficiencies found during the inspection. Fill out the top of the correction order as completely as possible. Then list all of the items that need to be repaired, replaced, or restored to working order at the complex. In the space on the right labeled Code section, include with each item the associated code reference for each violation. A complete list of multifamily requirements and the code reference for each is available from the Prevention Office. Have the manager or responsible party sign the correction order. Give them the opportunity to copy or scan the original white copy as it is the most legible. Issue them the pink copy. The white copy is the official record to be forwarded to the Prevention Office. The yellow copy is for your station records. These 3-part carbon copy correction order forms are available from the Prevention Office. We recommend that you take a picture of the correction order or use a free app such as CamScanner that will allow you to save a photo of the correction order as a PDF. This will allow you to submit the paperwork to the Prevention Office electronically via email. Advise the property you will return in 30 days to check for compliance. If possible, schedule this appointment before you leave. If compliance is not obtained, check again after 15 days and then again after 7 days. Properties still not in compliance after the third reinspection may be referred to the Prevention Office. Once the property has demonstrated compliance with your correction order, you can issue them an approval using the same correction order form. When the inspection is complete, please submit copies of the inspection paperwork to the Prevention Office. You may either submit hard copies of the paperwork or you may email photos or scans of the paperwork to ofminspections@co.pg.md.us. Please include the Apartment Inspection Complex Inspection Report, Form 4054, when you submit the paperwork. Please note on this form if there are any private hydrants at the complex and if they are compliant. Also, please note the number of hours the station devoted to inspecting the complex. Please report company hours, not personnel hours. If an engine staffed with 3 personnel spent an hour inspecting a building, please report that as 1 hour. The owner will be billed for the inspection based on the number of hours the station spent inspecting the property. Please forward copies of the paperwork from each completed complex to the Prevention Office, including all inspection checklist forms, correction orders, and the Complex Inspection Report, Form 4054. Thank you for your attention to this multifamily dwelling training and for all your inspection efforts. If you have any questions, please contact the Prevention Office at 301-583-1830.